Parth. Welcome to the class, and I'm sorry for the delay in starting the session. We chant the prayers. Om Adhyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya
चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै
Tasma Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadavayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajantam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritam Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Desh Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurta Srinam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shavanu Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarurvyasya Vipasindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnaveभ्यो Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauravakkar Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Studying Sri Ishopanishad. Look at mantra 6 today. So this mantra talks about the vision of someone who sees the absolute truth the way it is described in mantra 4 and 5. The vision of oneness. Okay. Mantra 6 describes the vision of one who can see Krishna everywhere. So what is this mantra? Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanu sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Very beautiful mantra. This is very beautiful mantra. Let's look at the translation of this mantra first. Mantra 6. It says, he who systematically sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. Na vijugupsate. Vijugupsate means to hate someone. So na vijugupsate does not hate anyone. Why? Because that person sees all the living entities as part and parcel of Krishna and sees the Supreme Lord within everything and sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. How does that person see? Systematically. So, Srila Prabhupada gives a nice purport here, describing more in detail about such a person. So, we'll first look at the commentary on this mantra by some other acharyas. See, Sarvani Bhutani Atmani means what? All living entities in relation to the Supreme Law. Sarva Bhuteshu Chatmanam. What does this mean? and the Supreme Lord in every living being. Um, you remember any verse from Bhagavad Gita which is very similar? Both the points are there in that verse. Hmm.
जी ईश्वर सर्वभूतानां हृदयदेशे अर्जुन तिष्ठति.
Yeah, that is there, but then that is only one part. Here, like there are two parts covered. No, first point is uh, all living entities in relation to the Supreme Lord, and the second point is the super soul in every living entity. So what you are saying is this one, right? Ishvara Sarvabhuteshu, the super soul in every living being. But what about the first one?
Prabhuji, 12th adhyay.
Tell me the verse if you remember.
Just trying to recall.
So there's this verse you might have read or heard it.
सर्वाणि भूतानि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थमपि.
No, no. So this verse is Yom Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Chamai Pashyati. Hmm. Both the things. Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Chamai Pashyati. Seeing Lord in everything and seeing everything in the Lord. Right? Uh, so what does it mean to see the Lord in everything? And what does it mean to see everything in the Lord? Srila Madhvacharya says to see everything in the Lord means to see the Lord as the support of everything. To see everything in the Lord means to see the Lord as support of everything. Mm. And to see the Lord in everything means to see the control of God in everything. So everything is
What is the shloka number of Gita which you were referencing?
6.30, I think. If I'm not mistaken, it is 6.30. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra 6.30 Bhagavad Gita. Hmm. Yeah, it is 6.30. So, so here, as Madhacharya explains, seeing the Lord in everything means that the Lord is controlling everything. Seeing everything in the Lord means the Lord is the basis or support of everything. Hmm. So what does that person do? So, a very nice explanation is given here. What does that person do? And tato na vijugupsate. Now we'll look at the meaning of which na vijugupsate later. First, let's look at this word called anupashyati. It's a very important work, and this work will come again actually. It will come again. Mm. Anupashyati. So it's composed of these two words, anu and pashyati. Right? So pashyati means to see. Pashyati means to, sorry, to observe or to see. That's the meaning of pashyati. No? Pashyati. So, and the word anu can have multiple meanings. One of the meanings of the word anu is systematically, which is what Srila Prabhupada takes in the translation, his translation of this verse, systematically. But then there are other meanings of word anu as well. Three meanings are there. Uh, one is skillfully, as translated by Vedanta Deshika, continuously and systematically, or following in the footsteps of previous acharyas uh, taken by Srila Prabhupada. So Anupashyati means one who can observe these two things, that Krishna is in control of everything, everything is in Krishna, Krishna is in everything. Skillfully, continuously, in the same mood as previous acharyas have done, then that person na vijugupsate, does not hate anyone. Right? neither hates anything or any being. So Vedanta Deshikai gives different meaning to this word Vijugupsute. He says to not criticize. That person doesn't criticize anyone. Uh, to treat someone as a person treats his own wealth and family means to treat someone very closely, lovingly, to not insult anyone, to not dislike anyone. Baldev Bhushan says that because one does not hate anyone, then such a person becomes liberated. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a very interesting explanation. He says hatred and love are opposites of each other, right? In this world, these are two opposites, hate and love. Hmm? Hate and love. So he says, uh, actually, when you talk about pure love, so pure love is is marked by the absence of hatred. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that to develop love for Krishna means proportionately we have to give up our hatred towards anything or anyone. Then that means I am developing pure love. So because one who sees anything in connection to Krishna cannot have hatred towards that thing. And such a person can attain pure love. Right? So let's look at the purport now. Prabhupada will talk about different types of devotees. First, he explains these qualities of is of whom, and very nice explanation Prabhupada gives. So let's look at the first paragraph. Ashokan,
Hare Krishna. This is a description of the Mahabhagavata, the great personality who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord's presence is realized in three stages. The Kanishkadikari is the lowest stage of realization. He goes to a place of worship, such as a temple, church, or mosque, according to his religious faith, and worships there according to scriptural injunctions. Devotees in this stage consider the Lord to be present at the place of worship and nowhere else. They cannot ascertain who is in what position in devotional service, nor can they tell who has realized the Supreme Lord. Such devotees follow the routine formulas and sometimes quarrel among themselves, considering one type of devotion better than another. These Kanishta Adhikaris are actually materialistic devotees who are simply trying to transcend the material boundary to reach the spiritual plane. Should I continue?
thank you, thank you. So we'll little bit discuss on this, but very nice, instructive for us to understand about the different types of devotees. You know, mm, very nice. So Prabhupada, in the first paragraph, he says, this quality which is mentioned here is of a Mahabhagavat, which means an Uttamadhikari Vaishnava, great personality. Then the Lord is realized by different people differently. So first he talks about the lowest level of realization, which is of Kanishta. I think Kanishta means small uh, or low. So is who? Someone who goes to a temple, to a church or mosque according to his faith and worships there as per scriptural injunctions. And such people, they think that God is present in the temple only. God is present in the mosque only. God is present in the church only. And therefore, their modus operandi is different in the temple and different in places outside the temple. They are not the same. They don't behave the same. Mm. So they say, no, temple means you should, yeah, you should be very nice and gentle because it's a temple. You should talk very nicely to everyone. You should behave very nicely. You should show yourself as a very religious person, as a spiritual person. But once they're outside the temple, then they are totally different person. So that's Kanishta, because that person thinks God is only in the temple, right? Nowhere else. So, therefore, when it comes to being in the temple, there's brotherhood, or there is so much of unity, cooperation, and all that. But outside the temple, then you are my enemy, you are my competitor. That mentality is there. Because they're Kanishta, they themselves don't know how advanced they are in spiritual life, and they also don't know how someone else is advanced in spiritual life. They cannot tell who is who and what standing. And therefore, they are they find it very difficult to get true sadhu sangha, real genuine sadhu sangha. Most of the time they spend in following a routine system of doing their sadhana or doing their worship, and sometimes they quarrel amongst themselves based on what one type of devotional service is more better than the other type of devotional service, or the devotional service I'm performing is better than the devotional service you are performing. So these are Kanishtadhikaris, who are simply materialistic devotees or trying to transcend the material boundary to reach a spiritual plane. We should know this is not the complete description of a Kanishta, because there can be so many points regarding a Kanishta. Prabhupada is just giving us some understanding who is a Kanishta, or person who is not yet very advanced in Krishna consciousness, just beginning Krishna consciousness, just at the beginning stage, lowest stage. Can such a person have this kind of vision given in this mantra? No, cannot. Such a person cannot. Right? Such a person cannot. It's very difficult for such a person to have such a person. Such a person can only uh, fake that uh, such a vision, but not really have such a vision. Um, then next is Madhyamadhikari. Next type of devotee. Shamala Madhya, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. Those who have attained the second stage of realization are called Madhyamadhikaris. These devotees observe the distinctions between four categories of being. First one, the Supreme Lord. Second, the devotees of the Lord. Third, the innocent who have no knowledge of the Lord. And fourth, the atheists who have no faith in the Lord and hate those in devotional service. The Madhyamadhikaris behaves differently toward these four classes of person. He adores the Lord, considering him the object of love. He makes friends with those who are in devotional service. He tries to awaken the dormant love of God in the hearts of the innocent, and he avoids the atheist who deride the very name of the Lord. Above the Madhyama Adhikaris is the Uttama Adhikari, who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee does not discriminate between an atheist and a theist, but sees everyone as part and parcel of the God. He knows that there is no essential difference between a vastly learned Brahmana and a dog in the street, because both of them are part and parcel of the Lord, although they are encouraged in different bodies on account of the different qualities of their activities in their previous lives. He sees that the Brahmana particle of the Supreme Lord has not misused his little independence given him by the Lord, and that the dog particle has misused his independence and is therefore being punished by the laws of nature by being encaged in the form of a dog, not considering the respective actions of the Brahmana and the dog. The Uttama Adhikari tries to do good to both. Such a learned devotee is not misled by material bodies, but is attracted by the spiritual spark within them.
Thank you, Bhante.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
So now we read about the two other types. One is Madhyam, which means situated in between, in the middle. Then Uttama means the topmost, the highest. So Madhyama is described as one who has uh, four different approaches towards four different personalities or categories. First is Supreme Lord, second is devotees, third is innocent people, and fourth is the atheists. So such a person has discrimination, has an ability to judge who is a devotee, who is not a devotee, who is an atheist, who is the Supreme Lord. And therefore, that person is properly, appropriately dealing with all these four categories of personalities. He adores the Lord, means he loves the Lord. He makes friendship with the devotees. He is compassionate towards the innocent people, tries to give Krishna consciousness to them. And to those who are atheistic in nature, he stays away from them. So that's Madhyamadika. Mhm. Right? And then Uttamadhikari is one who sees everything in relation to the Lord. Prabhupada is quoting a verse here, not really quoting, but paraphrasing from that verse. Vidya Vinay Sambhane Brahmani Gavestini Shuni Chaiva Shubhage Cha Panditaha Samam Darashinaha. So that person does not discriminate between even an atheist or a theist or a saint or a sinner, because that person sees the spirit soul as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And the reason for that person to see anyone in any condition is to see that that person is in that condition because of its own karma, uh, suffering in that condition. That's the vantage point of Vinodhamadikari. Mhm. Let's continue to read. We'll discuss later. Uh, Next two paragraphs. Kashinathi.
Hare Krishna. Those who imitate an Uttam Adhikari by flaunting a sense of oneness or fellowship, but who behave on the bodily platform are actually false philanthropists. The conception of universal brotherhood must be learned from an Uttam Adhikari and not from a foolish person who does not properly understand the individual soul or the Supreme Lord's super soul expansion, who dwells everywhere. It is clearly mentioned in this sixth mantra that one should observe or systematically see. This means that one must follow the previous acharyas, the perfect teachers who must follow the previous acharyas, the perfect teachers. Anupashyati is the exact Sanskrit word used in this connection. Anu means to follow, and pashyati means to observe. Thus, the word anupashyati means that one should not see things as he does with a naked eye, but should follow the previous acharyas. Due to material defects, the naked eye cannot see anything properly. One cannot see properly unless one has heard from a previous source and the highest source in the Vedic wisdom, which is spoken by the Lord Himself. Vedic truths are coming in disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, from Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, and from Vyasa to his many disciples. Formerly, there was no need to record the message of Vedas because people in earlier age were more intelligent and had sharper memories. They could follow the instructions simply by hearing once from the mouth of a bona fide spiritual master.
Bravo. So, two different topics are covered in these two paragraphs. The short paragraph, 4 lines, it says, those who imitate an Uttamadhikari by flaunting a sense of oneness, of fellowship, but who behave on the bodily platform are actually false philanthropists. The conception of universal brotherhood must be learned from an Uttamadhikari, not from a foolish person who does not properly understand the individual soul or the Supreme Lord's super soul expansion, who dwells everywhere. So here Prabhupada is bringing out a very good point that there are many people who who may definitely tell that they are well wishers of everyone and they want to do good to everyone and they love everyone, they're kind to everyone and they want to serve everyone, they want to please everyone. But then Prabhupada says that you cannot really have that consciousness if we are not yet a pure devotee of Krishna. You know, sometimes in this world, uh, because of being situated in mode of goodness, we know what is a good quality, and I should have that good quality in me. And when we don't have that good quality in ourselves, we try to show around as if we have it. Mhm. So when someone thinks, oh, such a nice concept, I should be kind to everyone, I should love everyone, I should do this, I should please everyone. It's such a nice thing to hear and to feel. So there are so many bogus spiritualists who have come during Prabhupada's time or even present on the planet now, who uh, don't hesitate to tell to people or express as if they love everyone and they are kind to everyone, because they know that if we do so, we'll become very good in people's mind, in their eyes, in their books. Will have a very good image, right? So Prabhupada is saying one cannot have such kind of consciousness until and unless one is an Uttamatikari Vaishnava. Not possible. Impossible. Because uh, how can one exhibit that kind of love or care or concern until unless one is oneself not very pure in heart, without any material desires or selfish agendas? It's not possible, isn't it? So, therefore, we have to draw a very thin line between imitating and following. Um, Sometimes we can do very unhealthy imitation, which is not good, which is very dangerous in spiritual life. And what is imitation? We follow an advanced devotee, and at the same time, we think that I am the same, uh, similarly advanced as that advanced devotee. That's called imitation. But following means uh, you know you are not that advanced. You know what is a good standard. You know where you are, and then you want to follow a good standard as per your capacity, as per your uh, level. Slowly absorbing the principles. That's following. So here's many people may just imitate and say that, okay, we are very compassionate, we are very loving. Prabhupada says no. Only a Mahabhagavad Vaishnava can have this quality of being equal, one in vision, and seeing no one as friend and enemy, treating them equally with Krishna consciousness. Right? Mm. Only then next in the next paragraph, Prabhupada starts explaining the word anupashyati. So he says anupashyati means you see the world, you see the people, you see Krishna, you see everything. The way our acharyas saw, the way they taught us to see. So then it talks about the parampara system, how we got this knowledge in parampara, and how do we see this knowledge? Let's read that last two paragraphs. Yes, Neha Madhuchand.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. At present, there are many commentaries on the revealed scriptures, but most of them are not in the line of disciplic succession coming from Srila Vyasadeva, who originally compiled the Vedic wisdom. The final, most perfect and sublime work by Srila Vyasadeva is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. There is also the Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by the Lord himself and recorded by Vyasadeva. These are the most important revealed scriptures, and any commentary that contradicts the principles of the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam is unauthorized. There is complete agreement among the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and no one should try to reach any conclusion about the Vedas without receiving instructions from members of Vyasadeva's disciplic succession, who believe in the personality of Godhead and his diverse energies as they are explained in Sri Ishopanishad. According to the Bhagavad Gita 18.54, only one who is already on the liberated platform, Brahmabhuta, can become an Uttamadhikari, a devotee. and see every living being as his own brother. This vision cannot be had by politicians who are always after some material gain. One who imitates the symptoms of an Uttamadhikari may serve another's outward body for the purpose of fame or material reward, but he does not serve the spirit soul. Such an imitator can have no information of the spiritual world. The Uttamadhikari sees the spirit soul within the material body and serves him as spirit. Thus, the material aspect is automatically served. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yes. Any question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhu,
Hare Krishna. One explain. Krishna, great.
Prabhuji, as I could understand from the shloka, is like such a vision is an outcome of a spontaneous devotion or for an uttam adhikari. But being a sadhaka, sometimes we try to follow and we try to imitate. Let's say we might have some grudges with somebody else, but we are being seeing like we have to behave some with everyone. So we try to imitate such behavior. So initially we try to imitate to like we are just trying to chant attentively, or we are trying to behave good with the devotees. So that's a kind of duplicit what duplicit behavior what we are doing. So what is an what is an I would say what is an outcome of such an I would say artificial behavior? That as for this shloka, that is of I think that is of no use. That will not give any benefit to us. Is it right, Pooji?
Prabhu, there are two different things. One is you are knowingly being duplicitous, and the second is you're not perfect, but you are trying to become better than before and trying to develop the qualities to some extent. It's all about sincerity. So, because you see, no one will just rise from level 0 to level 100 immediately, isn't it? So, one who has taken to Krishna consciousness, it's not that that person immediately becomes uh, pure. That person takes time. So, but that person's intention is correct. Sincerity is there. So, therefore, even a devotee may sometimes not have humility, but still act in a humble manner. That's, like doing it because you know you should be doing it, though you really don't have that nature yet. And that's fine. That's not called being duplicitous. It's not. That's okay.
Prabhuji, can I ask one question, please?
Wait a second. So that's not called being duplicitous. That's fine. However, you should know that it should not be done in a, uh, it should not be done overly, too much. Like, for example, you are not humble. You should be humble. So you can be humble, but then be naturally humble. You know, don't try to show off that humility too much. Hmm? So we don't have to tell things uh, unnecessarily or behave in an unnecessary manner to attract attention. Just be normal. Yes, because you are trying your best to accumulate that quality may also be visible in you to some extent. And there's nothing wrong to always present ourselves in a way that, yes, we are trying, but at the same time, hmm, we should also not show ourselves more than who we are or what we are. Um, So then it's not duplicit, then it's okay. You are learning, you're growing.
That means, Prabhuji, for self nourishment and for the self development, if we are acting in such a manner, that is acceptable. But if we are trying to just show it off to somebody else, just to attract the attention of somebody else, so that is a wrong way of understanding it, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Any other question?
Yes, Prabhuji, please may I?
Yeah.
Prabhuji, I have one question relating. Uh, if a person is a Uttama Adhikari, he would be a great Bhagavata as well. Correct, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Prabhuji, do they make any distinction between touching some animals and then not going to temple or something like this, Prabhuji?
Of course.
They have a bath after touching the animals and then they go to the temple like that?
Of course, it has to be.
Okay.
We studied this in Bhagavad Gita. We discussed that to have a vision and then to have a, a certain behavior on material platform are two different things.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Like for example, we brought the case of touching an animal. So let's talk about food then. Everything is food. So then does it mean I should start eating everything? Then will you say a Mahabhagavata should eat everything and anything that comes on the way? Equal vision,
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
right? No,
Yeah.
right? So that's how the vision is equal, but that doesn't mean that uh, one is not practical and one does not understand what is detrimental and what is helpful, what is to be done, what is not to be done. That all will be there. Vision is equal. Like for example, if a Mahabharata sees poison, that poison is also an energy of Krishna. Water, that is also an energy of Krishna. But then it doesn't mean now that Mahabharata will necessarily drink poison. No, but may not also. Fine.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Shri Prabhu.
Approach for reading your questions.
Any other question? Okay, so we go to the next mantra. Mantra 7. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atma evabhut avijanatah tatra ko mohakah shoka ekatvam anupashyatah. Again, you see the word coming here is anupashyati. Hmm. Translation. One who sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? Let me just open the presentation for us. Mantra 7 also talks about the vision of oneness. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmai vapuvijanatah tatra ko moha kah shoka ekatvam anupashyata. So the translation is one who is always one who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What can then be illusion or anxiety for him? Hmm. Purport. Anjali Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam. Except for the Madhyama Adhikari and Uttama Adhikari discussed above, no one can correctly see the spiritual position of a living being. The living entities are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord. Just as the spark of the fire are qualitatively one with the fire, yet spark are not fire as far as quantity is concerned. For the quantity of heat and light present in the sparks is not equal to that in the fire. The Mahabhagavata, the great devotee, sees oneness in the sense that he sees everything as the energy of the Supreme Law. Since there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, there is the sense of oneness. Although from the analytical point of view, heat and light are different from fire, there is no meaning to the word fire without heat and light. In synthesis, therefore, heat, light, and fire are the same. Shall I read further? In this mantra, the word ekatvam anupasthaya indicates that one should see the unity of all living entities from the viewpoint of the revealed scriptures. The individual spark of the supreme whole, the Lord, possesses almost 80% of the known qualities of the whole, but they are quantitatively equal to the Supreme Lord. These qualities are present in the minute quantity, for the living entity is but a minute part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. To use another example, the quantity of its salt present in a drop is never comparable to the quantity of salt present in the complete ocean. But the salt present in the drop is qualitatively equal in chemical composition to all the salt present in the ocean. In the individual living being, if the individual living being were equal to the Supreme Lord, both qualitatively and quantitatively, there would be no question of his being under the influence of the material energy. In the previous mantras, it has already been discussed that no living being, not even the powerful demigod, can surpass the supreme being in any respect. Therefore, ekatvam does not mean that a living being is equal in all respects to the Supreme Lord. It does, however, indicates that in a broader sense, there is one interest. Just as in a family, the interest of all members is one, or in a nation, the national interest is one, although there are many different individual citizens. Since the living entities are all members of the same supreme family, their interest and that of the supreme being are not different. Every living being is the son of the supreme being. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.5, all living creatures throughout the universe, including birds, reptiles, ants, aquatics, trees, and so on, are emanations of the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all of them belong to the family of the Supreme Being. There is no clash of interest. The spiritual.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Shri Prabhu, please read.
Prabhuji, in this para, I have one question. Can I ask or afterwards?
Yeah, ask now.
In this paragraph, it is stated that living entities are of the same supreme family. Their interest and that of the supreme being are not different. So, what is the same interest between living entities and the Lord? As per my understanding, it is to enjoy the spiritual enjoyment where the Lord will be enjoyer and we will be enjoyed. That is our constitutional position. Is that thing which is being referred in this para? That our interest is the same, supreme being and giving entity? It reads, since the living entities are all members of the same family, their interest and that of the supreme being are not different. What does this convey?
I could not understand the last part. Can you repeat, please? The voice was not clear. Can you repeat the last part?
Since the living entities are all members of the same supreme family, their interest and that of the supreme being are not different. What is the same interest of living being and the supreme being?
Yes. I mean, uh, to be one with the Supreme Lord, that's what Prabhupada explains. To be one with the Supreme Lord means to have the same interest.
Okay. By its interpretation, can it be that the Lord will be the enjoyer, we will be enjoyed, because in that being enjoyed also is a part of enjoyment for the entity. Is that meaning?
That holds true. It is true that he is the enjoyer and I'm enjoyed. That is the nature tattva. He is in Vishnu tattva, so he is the enjoyer.
Okay.
And we in Jiva tattva, we are to be enjoyed because we are by nature energy. Energy means to be enjoyed by the energetic. That is true.
Okay.
That is
So to be
that is
same
the
is
truth.
okay, as you said, to merge with the Lord, to be one with the Lord. That is the
Yes.
interest. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
No, Prabhuji,
No.
thank you from my side.
Yes, Shruti Prabhu, please continue to read.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat. The spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamaya Abhyasa. By nature and constitution, every living being, including the Supreme Lord and each of his part and parcels, is meant for eternal enjoyment. The living beings who are engaged in the material tabernacle are constantly seeking enjoyment, but they are seeking it on the wrong platform. Apart from the material platform is the spiritual platform where the Supreme Being enjoys himself with his innumerable associates. On that platform, there is no trace of material qualities, and therefore, that platform is called Nirguna. On the Nirguna platform, there is never a clash over the object of enjoyment. Here in the material world, there is always a clash between different individual beings because here the proper center of enjoyment is missed. The real center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, who is the center of the sublime and spiritual Ras dance. We are all meant to join him and enjoy life with one transcendental interest and without any clash. That is the highest platform platform of spiritual interest, and as soon as one realizes this perfect form of oneness, there can be no question of illusion, moha, or lamentation, shoka. A godless civilization arises from illusion, and the result of such a civilization is lamentation. A godless civilization, such as that sponsored by the modern politicians, is always full of anxieties because it may be crushed at any moment. That is the law of nature. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14, no one but those who surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord can surpass the stringent laws of nature. Thus, if we wish to get rid of all sorts of illusion and anxiety and create unity out of all diverse interests, we must bring God into all our activities. The results of our activities must be used to serve the interests of the Lord and not for any other purpose. Only by serving the Lord's interest can we perceive the Atma Bhuta interest mentioned herein. The Atma Bhuta interest mentioned in this mantra and the Brahma Bhuta interest mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 1854 are one and the same. The Supreme Atma or soul is the Lord Himself, and the minute Atma is the living entity. The Supreme Atma or Paramatma alone maintains all the individual minute beings, for the Supreme Lord wants to derive pleasure out of their affection. The Father extends Himself through His children and maintains them in order to derive pleasure. If the children obey the Father's will, family affairs will run smoothly with one interest and a pleasing atmosphere. The same situation is transcendently arranged in the absolute family of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Spirit. The Parabrahman is as much a person as the individual entities. Neither the Lord nor the living entities are impersonal. Such transcendental personalities are full of transcendental bliss, knowledge, and life eternal. That is the real position of spiritual existence. And as soon as one is fully cognizant of this transcendental position, he at once surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Being, Sri Krishna. But such a Mahatma or great soul is very rarely seen because such transcendental realization is achieved only after many, many births. Once it is attained, however, there is no longer any illusion or lamentation or the miseries of material existence or birth and death, which are all experienced in our present life. That is the information we get from this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad. Thank you, Prabhu Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll continue the explanation of this in the next class because I have to go out. I mentioned the reason in the group, and we'll continue the discussion in the next class. So in the next class, we'll cover this mantra and mantra number 8. Then the section will be over. All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna.